Hi, Nicholas here. So these lessons are a continuation from the previous couple of lessons. So we're going to look again at another example, and we're going to invert a melody, but we're going to also look at possible, for each inversion, all the possible chords, and we'll list them down. And also a way how to visualize the actual chords you're creating, so you not have to remember the names of all these complicated chords. If you use your visual memory, we're going to stick to one key, and we're just going to stick to the same series of notes. So you'll get familiar with those notes, and then just scanning the keyboard and moving around those notes, you'll get to understand and create all different complex chords that we can find from these melodies. So the first melody we're going to use, right, it's going to be an example. So it's going to be called a Blues Hexatonic scale. And this is the formula just up here for a Blues Hexatonic. Right? So we're going to start on the note C, right? And so let's have a look at this harmonic formula. So it's got a 1, it's got a minor third, and it's got a 4th so far, right? It's also got a minor 5. So there's your 5 and there's your minor 5. So if you look at the keyboard, and it also has a minor 7 up there, which is a tone down. So now what we want to do is we're going to look at the keyboard and use our visual memory just to memorize those notes. So if we look down, we'll see the F and G, okay? So F, G, and then F sharp note in the middle, right? So these group here, we can think of that group first. Then you can think of, like, if you made the chord C minor, right? You've got the C, and we've got the C and the E flat there. We've got the G flat, we've got the F. So what you do now is you're just going to muck around with those notes, and the only extra note is the minor 7th, which is the B flat. So we're going to stick to just these notes. We're not going to press any other note. We're not transposing to another key, right? So if we have the note E flat, right, we're not even going to really consider the key with this example. But if you have the note E flat and B flat, you're actually in the key of B flat, right? If we're starting on C, right? But we're just going to, what we're going to do is we're going to forget about that. If you want to just revise B flat, that's perfectly fine, right? But it's mainly in the key of B flat, this scale. It's got an extra note which comes out of key, right? Which is that G flat there, right? But we're not analysing this in those terms at this moment, right? What we're doing is we're just looking at the notes, and we're not gonna play any other notes. We're just gonna play these notes. So we need to locate them quickly. This is also gonna be helpful in improvisation, and I'll do my improvisation series. I'll probably stick to this same example, but we're going to just go through the process now of how to work out how to invert the melody, then how to find different chords. Okay, and when we find the chords, we're going to end up having chords C minor, C minor 7, C7, sus4. Now, I don't want you to stress out about if you're not even sure of what all these chords mean. I don't want you to concentrate on knowing the chord in terms of when you see it like that, of how to make it. I don't want you to think like that in this exercise here. What you want to do is you're just going to memorize the notes, and you're going to discover different sounds, and you'll be making these chords, right? But you'll be listening as well for them. So whether you know what a C minor 7 flat 5 is, we're going to go through it now, and I'll be explaining it now. But the process, the first thing you want to do, right, we'll come back to here, is we're going to start with the actual harmonic formula. We're going to we're going to memorize the notes. So here's we'll start from here. So there's the harmonic formula. We're going to memorize these notes, right? So it's the C, E flat. It's the F and the G and the G flat, right? And it's also the B flat there. And I want you to play the scale. and just muck around with it, right? And then scan the keyboard and see where they appear everywhere else. Now, you can play anything you want as long as you hit those notes. You can play anything. Just hit those notes and have it, and you're listening for different sounds, right? Okay. Right. So what we want to do now is, you're just getting used to the notes, but now we're going to put a bit more structure to it and see what chords we can do. And then when we move on within another lesson, we'll look at the sequence of chords we can come up with to make a song. So we're just going to look at the chords now. So first thing I'm going to do, we're going to invert the melody. So here's the melody. It's just a scale, right? So a scale is a melody. You know, you can do many things, like you can put a lot of timing in, you can come back and forth, you can hit notes a few times, but it's all based on this scale, right? Now, to invert anything, as you've seen from previous lessons, if you've just come into this lesson and you haven't seen the last two, we can keep on going. You'll still follow this, but probably recommended just to watch the last two videos I did. Anyway, you just take the bass note and move it up, right? So, but we're going to rely on our visual, and we're looking down, so we can see what we're pressing here. So if we listen to skip the first note, now, and we'll play it up there. So instead of playing the C there, we're going to play the C there. So with a scale, when you're playing a scale, like any scale, all those intervals stop on that minor seventh. But a lot of the times they'll include the octave, the high octave, right? And that's fine. But to understand inversion, it's better just to leave that out, because you just stop at the 7. Because when you're inverting, you're taking that C and you're moving it now up there. So you don't want to play it the first time, you might confuse you. So you take that C, play it there. Now we're playing from E flat. The same notes. So once you remember the sequence of notes visually, it's quite easy to find the modes, because all you're doing is you're just, instead of playing from the first note, you're playing from the second note, then you're playing from that note. The sequence is the same, it's just you're starting at different locations with that scale. A bit like all the modes in the Western major scales, exactly the same idea. So we start on E flat, and we stop there, then we start on F. Make sure we put the B flat in. Right? So we'll start here. So the very first one, the original scale is this, right? That's the formula. Now, when you invert, you get a completely different formula. Now, it's the harmonic formula that gives you the emotion of the sound. So if we're playing like this, and you can feel the emotion when you're playing the actual scale. Before you start making up a melody and, you know, going back and forth around that scale, you just want to hear the scale. There's that scale. And then if we play starting from E flat, so it gives you a completely different feeling, right? And if we start on F, and we can end an F on or just end on the E flat, right? Okay, or we can start on the G flat. And we can stop on the F, or we can go to the G flat if we like, right? So, but to remember these scales, we're just remembering the notes, so the sequence doesn't change. So we're just looking at that sequence that goes up. And once we memorize the sequence visually, right, we can just start playing at that note and just continue. So if we're starting on the G, we're going to end up here, right? Right, on the G flat. And then the G would be the octave. We started on the G. And the next is just the B flat, is the last one before we go back. And the B flat again, right? As we go through them, they all have a different emotional feeling. So that's, and then it goes back to the same. So if you invert the B flat, so the last one is B flat, right? And then when you take that and put it up there, you're back to the C again. You're back to the first one again. All right, so that's pretty simple. So you have a scale, you take the bass note, move it to the high position and play the scale. They're the different modes of that scale. Now we're familiar with modes as natural modes. So the natural modes are the Western major scale, which are all these, Ionian, Dorian, they're all the natural modes, okay? Phrygian. Now these particular modes of a mode of any scale, they don't necessarily have a name. A lot of the times it becomes a new scale, right? So they all have different harmonic formulas. In this particular case, they're unique. Each one of these is unique, and you can tell by the harmonic formula. Like you have minus thirds there, you've got a minus third there. This doesn't even have a third, this mode, right? This is a major, it's got a third there. So I can tell by looking at that, the first two are going to be a bit sadder because they're on the minors there. That's got a major third, so that's going to be sort of a happier feeling. And again, this one doesn't have a third at all. All right, so once we've worked out all the modes, let's have a look at the chords. Now we can make the possible chords. So again, we've just repeated what we've got up there, but now we just got suggested chords. So let's look at the first Ionian. Well, it's not Ionian, it's just the first, right? It's the original scale, right? You can express any scale in terms of the natural modes, but we're not dealing with that now. We've done that in previous lessons. We're just looking at a scale, right? Now let's see the first chord. So what we do is to work out what chords are available here. Is we just look at the notes and we start with, there's a bass note there. We've got a E flat. So that's a minor third. We've got the fifth there. So straight away we've got a C minor, right? So the very first, on the original scale, we're going to put a C minor there. We've also got the note B flat. So that's a C minor seventh chord. Now again, it takes time to learn all the chords and what they mean and sus4s and dims. And it takes time to learn that, right? But when you're just want to play something and improvise and you don't know or how to find all the chords, you can just do it visually. You can just look visually and just muck around with those notes and hear the sound. And what happens if you go to this note? And then slowly in time you'll learn the chord names. But we'll go through these. All right, so a C7 again, right? So what's a C7? A C is a major chord. Now, but we don't have a major here, right? But that would be a C7, which would be a major. But this is C7, but it's a sus4, so we're not playing the third, we're playing the fourth. So a sus chord is you can have a sus2 or a sus4. And just a sus chord is a sus4. If you just see sus without the 4, it implies sus4. So you're playing the fourth instead of any of the third, either third or a minor third, you're playing a fourth. So we have C7 sus4 chord. What else do we have? So we're still on the first original scale, and we've already got these chords here, all based on C. Right, C's the root. So we have a diminished chord here with the E flat and the G flat. That's a C diminished chord. We also have a half diminished with which is this one here, C minor 7. This is a C minor 7, right? Which is this chord here, right? That's C minor 7. But if we've also got the G flat, so if we flatten that, that's a diminished chord. By just moving one note from a C minor 7, we can get a full diminished chord. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chords, and we're just only in the first mode, right? Now, if we're going to create a song with this, we're going to maybe choose a chord progression. We won't necessarily go C minor, then E flat, and then F. We're not necessarily going to go that order. We might find something that works better. The first one and the third one over here, or. So So anyway, let's look at the next one. So the next scale is we start on the E flat. Right, so let's look at the notes down here and see what chords we can make. Well, I can see straight away that we've got E flat, we've got the G and a B flat. That's E flat major, right? So we write that down. We've also got, right, the C. Now, the C, if you look here, is a 6. To find a 6 fast, there's a fifth rule, there's your 6, right? So it's also E6, right? It has the fifth in it as well, E6. So, E flat 6, right? It's also got the G flat, so it could be E flat minor with a 6. It can be just E flat minor itself, like that, right? So they're the 4 chords that we've got here in the second, in the first inversion, which is the second mode, right? That's the first mode, which is the original scale. That's the second mode, which is the first inversion. It's the second mode. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth mode, which is a fifth inversion. All right, so let's look now at the second inversion. So this time it starts on F, right? And that goes back to the F. All right, so let's say we're going to start on the note F. So what can we make here? Let's have a look. Well, we don't have the note A, right? And we don't have it there, so it's not going to be any major or minor chord. We have a fifth, so it's a power chord. We could put F5 there actually, it's just a power chord, but any of these could be power chords too. That we could have C power chord. I just left out the power chords. All right, so what else do we have there? We've got a 4. All right, so we've got a 4, so it's going to be sus chord. It's going to be sus 4. So F sus 4 will be our first one. There it is. F7, what's F7? So F7's a major, right, chord with a minor 7th. If that's your octave of there's your minor 7th. But we don't have A, right, in these sequence. We do have the 4. So it's an F7 but sus 4. So basically it's a sus 4 with a minor 7th in there. That's all I can see with this one. All right, let's go to the G flat. What do we have in G flat? If we're going to start on G flat, right, a fifth would be that C sharp. But we don't have C sharp in this sequence. We've only got that diminished. So that's a diminished, so it's a -5 diminished. So it's G flat, but it does have the 6 in it, right? There's a 6th. So this would be a G flat. Sorry, that's it's got a major there. So we're on G flat, right? Oh, sorry, we're on G flat here. Yeah, that's right. It doesn't have the fifth. It's got the -5, right? That's correct. It's got the major third, right? So it's got the major third. So that's good. Major third with a flat 5, and it's got a 6 in it. So it's G6, major third. It's got the major third. So we call that a G6. Instead of the 5, we just flatten the 5. So there's your regular G6 chord, flatten the 5th. So all these notes fit in this scale, right? So that's the only one I can think of. You've got to just, G flat 3 there, But so that's the only one of real interest. All right, so we're starting on the note G. So let's have a look. And that's the high G. So what do we have here? Well, let's have a look. We've got G. That's almost implying a G minor there, right? G minor's there. However, the 5th, we don't have that note. But we have and we don't have the C sharp either. We've got the E flat, which is augmented 5th, +5. C minor, so would it be G augmented, so would be up there. Sus. It could be, there's G. It can be G minor. We do have G minor sharp 4. We have that chord there. So there's also G augmented. So what's a G augmented? It's not G. Let's see, G augmented. Oh, sus4, that's correct. That would be your G augmented chord, right? You'd have the major, right? However, right, that note's not in there. It's a B flat, right? That would be a minor, right? If it had a B flat. But it has a C in it. So there's your fourth. That's a fourth. So it's a sus4 chord. It's a sus4, which is this bit of the chord. But it's also a G. It's an augmented chord as well. See? With the E flat. There's also a G minor because we have a B flat. There's a G minor. But there's the fifth, the D. Doesn't have a D in this sequence, so but it has the sharp 5. So it could be G minor sharp 5. Like that. So there's another chord we could use. Finally, we're at B flat. And what do we have? Right, we've got that second there. We've got that fourth there is up there, right? So we're going to have a sus chord. We don't have the fifth in there, so there's a power chord, right? We're good on there. There's your power chord. So it's B flat 5. I haven't written the power chords. We've got the 4 up there, so it's a sus4, B flat sus4. We also have the 6, which is the G. So B flat, a 6 is a tone up from the 5th, right? There. We've got a 6, B sus4. So it's B flat 6 sus4. So we basically included the 6. That would be the major, that would be the minor. If that was B flat, that's B flat minor. That's B flat major. And we don't have any of those notes. We don't have C sharp or D. But we got E flat, which is the sus4. So they're the chords. So I've described how to find those chords. Now, in the next lesson, so they all have a different emotional feel. So I'm going to continue this onto another lesson. And what we're going to do is I'm going to try to merge this into using this information to come up with a sequence and start to create a song. So I'll probably tack it on to the composition series up here where I've got basic composition, where I've started writing a song here. Or I might throw it onto the improvisation as I'll do another improvisation. I've only done one improvisation, first steps. I'm not going to do using Chordify yet. So I might tack it in after that. And we'll start, so it'll be a continuation from this lesson where we'll use this formula and we'll come up with sequences. Because, you know, it will, for example, a C minor sounds nice. And then what would be a next? If we got C minor, what would be a next one? We got B flat. So we could go. That's a nice progression. So that's dropping the bass. You could drop the bass on C minor, and that sounds nice to include in a song somewhere. So basically, you work out these. What sounds good? Let's have another look at another one. So what's the next chord here? G flat. So we've just got, here the chords, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, E flat. All right, the chord E flat. So there's a chord E flat. Well, the chord C minor 7, which we have there, also has E flat in it anyway, right? Chord C minor 7 there also has just E flat in it by lifting the bass. Right, so we could go from E flat, for instance. We could drop the bass and go put the C in there and then go to C minor, go to E flat, and then go drop the bass again. Dropping bass is a really nice technique. So we're still sticking to the notes. We're not in any other notes. So in the next lesson, I'll come up with a few different things and of improvisation, and we'll do a sequence of chords and see what we can do. So we've started from this one single scale. It's just a scale, right? And that scale becomes our inspiration to create melodies. That's the idea of having scales, and getting your ear focused to that scale. Because once you have the scale, you can start to work within that scale to create a particular sound you want, you know. And this can cross a key signature. With this one, it would be close. It's closest to B flat because it has the E flat and the B flat in it. So it's closest to the key of B flat, but it also has that extra note. So it's jumping out a key as well. That would be the spicy note. If we're in the key of B flat with this particular pattern, all these notes are in the key of B flat. All these are in the key of B, and that becomes call that a spicy note. That's the only note that comes out of the key of B flat. Right? So to have what key signature helps as well in your head. But as I said before, you can just scan the notes, and just if you're only playing those notes, you're going to make it sound good. But I know if I'm in the key of B flat, I know I can safely add the note D, and it's not going to affect, right? It's not going to, it's going to stay in key. And I know I can add the note A as well, right? But if we want to stick to creating a particular sound, like in this case, a blues hexatonic sound, we want to avoid those notes. Otherwise, we're going to break that sound we're trying to create. Right? Anyway, I'll leave it with this lesson, and we'll continue probably the next one. I'll do a composition. I've only done one. I'll continue the composition. All right, see you next lesson.